morning, good afternoon, and good night. This is Become the Podcast. How do you become anything? You dream, you declare, you commit, and success is your next breath. My name is Marv Fikes Jr., and I am joined with my main man, Nate Schmidt, assistant coach at Indian Hills, and also good friend, awesome trainer. He's training NBA pros. He's training high-level Division I athletes, as well as, I don't know if he trains athletes below that anymore. I don't know. He might be too big. But if you listen to previous podcasts, you know that Nate Schmidt was kind of my muse, or one of my the biggest inspirations for me to continue training and continue working. When I was going through it and thinking about not training, it was Nate that my wife talked about. And when she says, well, what about Nate? That kind of kept me feeling like, well, I need to endure these challenges because there's a kid that I gotta take care of, so to speak. And so Nate is my main man, good friend, love him to death. And so he's on the pod. Nate, how you doing?
Doing well, man. Doing well. Appreciate you having me on.
Appreciate it. So let's talk Indian Hills. You guys have had a decent season this year. What's your record?
Not bad. We just finished up the regular season this past Saturday. 30-0, 8-0 in the conference, and number 1 in the country.
So talk about. I mean, you say it very casually, and even as I was watching the numbers, though the wins add up on social media. You know, you will post on Instagram your current season, and you will post stats and stuff like that. And you will highlight players and key players from key games and or key players who were having really, really good weeks or whatever. But you say it pretty casually, but not many people involved in basketball or involved in sport can say they've been a part of an undefeated season. Like, up until then, you couldn't say that. And now you've been a part of it. What has that been like, if you can, I guess, capture what it's like to go undefeated, the pressure?
It's been an awesome ride, and we have a really good group of guys. We got, depending on a couple injuries we've had around 10 or 11 guys all year. So it's been kind of nice. We have a smaller group. All the guys are really locked in. They're all really, really good dudes. So, it never really, I don't know, it never really felt like we were, 28-0 or 29-0. Like,
wow.
We talked about it as a staff and as a team, but, the guys didn't get too big-headed. They were always ready for the next game, and to their credit, they always showed up for the big games. We played some tough road games. We played some high-level, teams from across the country, and these guys as a group always showed up. So it was always, that's what's always impressed me the most with these guys, is just how level-headed they always stayed, and just kind of not on to the next one, but we're just kind of plugging along.
Talk about, give me the difference between a Division I staff, coaching staff, in terms of numbers and just people to do things, and a JUCO coaching staff. And obviously Indian Hills is an elite school, but talk about the number of people that you have on each staff, and then talk about this staff and kind of how everybody participated in helping these young men go 30-0.
Yeah, at Iowa State, we had maybe 9 people on staff total.
Yeah.
Going from 2 GAs, coordinator of player development, special assistant, 3 assistants, director of ops, head coach. Where here at Indian Hills, it's myself, another full-time assistant, and a head coach.
Wow.
So me and the other assistant, as well as our head coach, are very involved in kind of every aspect of it, from the academic side to on the court to what they're doing off the court as well. So it's kind of we wear a ton of different hats throughout the day, just trying to take care of everything. So a little different.
What was there anything? Now, obviously, again, Indian Hills has a great reputation, so you're going to get motivated players. You're going to get or you're going to get kids who players who think they're motivated until they get there and realize, what's all involved. But I'm assuming that you are getting motivated players. A lot of these guys know I'm going to get here. I want to be here for 1 year, maybe 2 years. I got to giddy up. I got to get my grades up. I got to get my game together so that I can hopefully go play at a bigger institution or get on a bigger platform, whatever the case may be. Knowing that you only get these players for 2 years, because sometimes it escapes me that you got these kids to jail very quickly. I'm thinking that I'm still, even as I'm talking, I'm thinking the Indian Hills is a 4-year institution, but it's not. It's a 2-year institution, what makes going 30-0 even more remarkable, because that means that you got to get kids to jail even faster with lesser people, but you're still dealing with the multitude of personalities. What are some of the things that the coaching staff, you and the coaching staff did to just make sure that these kids are ready to go? Or how do you guys deal with all these different personalities when you have so few people, but you got this timeline on you, which is only 2 years to get these guys to jail?
Yeah. This group did and has continued and still doing an unbelievable job, getting in the gym on their own, whether that's before practice, after practice, late at night. They have a key card to our gym so they can get in 24/7. Like a lot of the D1 schools, they have access to our gym all the time. So they do a very good job of, grabbing a couple teammates, getting in the gym, getting some shots up. So I think it kind of naturally came because, they're kind of always around each other. They all live together. They all go to class together. They're being in the gym, getting workouts in together. It just kind of naturally flowed. And again, they're really good guys.
Sure.
So there's no, there's not a ton of ego. There's not a ton of, me versus you type of stuff. Like they're just a really good group.
Good. So last question, and this might be a loaded question. Now, you probably would love to talk about the entire team in terms of the players. But we don't have a lot of time because we got to get to you and your training philosophy and those things like that. But can you talk about, without hurting anybody's feelings, can you talk about a few key guys that just come up, that just pop off the page, and talk about some individual performances that kind of stood out to you, or maybe the guy who didn't have a standout performance, but he struggled, but he found a way to contribute in spite of his challenges. Can you talk about a few key guys and some cool narratives in terms of player personnel for the Indian Hills?
I'll give you a cool stat game. Ivana Rocochea,
okay,
a big man from Spain, had 26 points and 24 rebounds in a game earlier this year, which, I've never seen in person or coached a guy that, pulled down 24 rebounds.
Sure.
So that was pretty, a little eye-opening for me.
Yeah.
But, there's another one that stands out to me, a guy, Jamel Allen, struggled first half of a conference road game, probably 2 or 3 weeks ago. Just kind of struggled, offense wasn't really going, just was having a hard time with some stuff. Second half came in, energy, body language kind of totally flipped around, had a couple huge defensive stops, a couple huge defensive rebounds. Still, I think only that had 1 or 2 buckets in the game, but really kind of just made an impact. And, us winning and us getting stops in the second half of that game. So that kind of stands out as a recent, kind of struggle. Everything wasn't going his way, and then kind of just, flipped it around instead of quitting. He definitely flipped it around and had a very positive impact on our team and helping us win the game. But, we have great group of guys. We'll have 9 sophomores graduating to all, should be going D1, and we'll go D1. Signed with a Division I school this spring. So, 9 guys leaving, and then three good freshmen coming back.
We'll have to come back after the season and kind of talk about those guys and talk about who's going where, and just talk about skill level, and not skill level, but just talk about game, and then talk about where those guys are going, because I'm interested to know how does especially when the NBA seems to cater to the one and done guy. Although in recent years, you have people like LaDamian Leonard, you had people like Kawhi Leonard, you've had people like Donovan Mitchell. As of late, these guys are all guys that have been in college maybe 3 years. And there seems to be a value, or there seems to be maybe a growing trend at Kuzma. I think Kuzma was in college, definitely wasn't one and done. But there seems to be something to the kids who stay in school a little longer. They seem to be a little bit more ready. Now, they might not be as I don't know, touted as your one and done guy, but when you talk about this guy can come in and play. He can play with the ball in his hands. He can play without the ball in his hands. He is Van Vliet is another one. Van Vliet's been playing really well for Toronto. He's definitely a 4-year guy. You talk about these guys who have been playing for 4 years. They play with the ball. They play without the ball. Their college coach had an opportunity to coach them, right? Where they may have gotten put on the bench every now and then. They may have been reprimanded. They may have been challenged. They may have been given different roles throughout the course of a season, throughout the course of a year. And now we've seen that maybe that one and done player, if he's really talented, you got to take him. But there might be something to the 3-year player. So these kids are going to be 2 year. They finish 2 years. They're going to go somewhere else, and they might leave after that 3rd year, or they leave after that 4th year. So it'll be interesting to see how being a part of a 30-0 win season, and then going somewhere else and playing for maybe 1 or 2 years, all depending on how quickly they can get stats and get on the big stage. It'll be interesting to see how this translates to the NBA.
Yep, and it definitely, the more we win, the more it definitely helps everyone. The big picture as far as all these guys getting scholarships, because the more and more we win, the more and more kind of attention that we get, and it definitely helps these guys to get probably better Division I scholarships.
Yeah,
and allows them to get on a bigger and better stage, or just in a better situation.
Sure.
To kind of prepare them for that next step, whether that be NBA, G League, or overseas.
All right, so let's switch gears and talk about you as a trainer. I think last time we just talked about your story, and we didn't really get too deep into training. And I've watched you train. I've trained you, and then I've watched you train, and it's interesting. And I've seen you train a lot of guards. I haven't seen you train bigs, and I heard about some of the stuff that you've done, just through our conversations. But I'm interested in seeing just what your philosophy has been like, and how you train players on different levels. And so, with that being said, what is your training philosophy? Have you figured that out yet in this young life that you've lived thus far?
I definitely think it's something that I'm constantly working on.
Mm-hmm.
Just adding to, really kind of just as I move up and as I keep, communicating, working out higher and higher guys, and then just communicating with, all these college coaches and NBA coaches, and what they're looking for in guys. I think it's always, I think my philosophy will probably always be a little different every time we talk. But I think the biggest thing with me is just kind of situational training.
Yeah.
Referring to game situations.
Mm-hmm.
I'm always kind of thinking of, them in the game, where would they be, how would they get the ball, just kind of the small details of, where's the pass coming from? Is it some big that might throw them a terrible pass, or is it a point guard putting it right on the pocket for them, in this instant? So just kind of, big with the details and big with, game situations.
So I have a list of questions, and they were like in this really cool order, but I'm going to jump around a little bit because you said something that was interesting. So you said that you do a lot of situational training. You're looking at the game, and then you're you're creating drills that simulate or mimic the game. When you come into a program like Iowa State, like Indian Hills, and you're going to be there for a while, do you immediately go to film? Like, like, do you immediately go to film and try to see what these guys look like? Can you figure it out through an open gym? Can you figure it out? Like, how do you go about figuring out what situation to put these kids in? Or do you even just ask them, like, what do you do when you play? And then kind of go off that. How do you figure out how to create the drills that will simulate the game?
Probably a little bit of all of that. Definitely a lot of film. You know, when I first got to Iowa State, it was watching everyone's made basket, missed baskets, field goal attempts from the previous season. And then you know, probably watching turnovers, assists, stuff like that. So, you know, when I got to Iowa State, the biggest thing was just understanding all of these guys' games.
Yeah.
And then understanding what them as a player wanted to improve on.
Yeah.
And then also what the coaching staff was looking for. So, you know, I was trying to mesh those two together because, you know, as you know, players and coaches aren't always seeing eye on you know, on their ability level. So,
sure.
You know, I was always trying to mesh that together. You know, and it was a lot of talking with the player.
Yeah.
Saying, this is probably a realistic goal for the summer. This is, you know, let's focus on these couple things. And you know, but film was definitely a key. And then the other thing was just trying to learn the offense. When I got there for Fred, you know, every single workout I did the first, I don't know, however, you know, the whole summer, I was always incorporating, you know, his terminology, his plays, you know, different actions, different sets, to help me, you know, better understand the offense as well as the player that I was training. So it was kind of, you know, twofold deal where it was helping both of us out. I was learning the offense, he was learning the offense, and we were just kind of, you know, and it was the actual situation that he was going to be in.
Wow. So you asking the coach, what do you want from this player? You're asking the player, what do they want from themselves? You're looking at film, and then you're learning the offense so that you can figure out this is what the offense is going to do. So you need to be in this space, and you're gonna have these reads and whatnot. So it's a lot. It's very layered. It's not a simple process if you really want to do it the right way.
Yeah, definitely.
Go ahead.
No, you go.
What are the two things do you think you're the best in the business at? And I know you're a humble dude, and to ask a question that demands you to be brash is tough for you. I know that. So I know I'm putting you on the spot. But as your big brother, you have to be able to say this and say it with conviction, because at some point you're going to be in front of an AD, or you might be in front of an owner, and they're going to ask you, why should they give you this check, this multi-million-dollar check, to have this opportunity? And there has to be some cockiness, some arrogance, some brashness, if that's a word, to you, for you to be able to say with conviction, this is what I do better than everybody else in the biz. And you might not be right, but sometimes you got to feel that way in order to make everybody else feel that way as well. You know what I'm saying? So that's not like a conversation point. That's like me talking to my little bro point. So with that being said, this is a good exercise for you to say it, and not kind of bat an eye, but can you, as you're still developing your philosophy, can you tell me two things that you do better than, or one thing that you do better than everybody else? Do you know what those things are yet?
Yeah, I would say number one would be just, I try to answer the why for the player.
Okay.
You know, and really focus on the mental side and understanding why you're doing what you're doing. And how you can do that better. And just from a total understanding of the game, instead of just focusing on this drill, but understanding, why I want you to stay down inside your jump shot, how it affects it, and just really attacking that part of it. I think that's what I've always been really good at, is not just saying, do this because I told you to do it, but really explaining and teaching and understanding, helping them understand the why behind everything that they're doing on the court.
Yeah, that's how you were as a player. We always want to know why we were doing it, and it would be times when maybe you wouldn't ask the question, and maybe because I was kind of we maybe didn't ask the question because we were both exploring it. You know, I'm doing a drill and I'm exploring if this even works, and you're talking to me and you're giving me feedback, and so there was this constant dialogue. But that's how you were as a player, always wanting to know the why, and I can see how it's impacted you as a teacher. And that's kind of when I see you train and when I hear you talk about the game and I hear you talk about your experiences training players, I feel like you want them to understand the game as much as you do, or you want them to develop an appreciation for understanding why we're doing what we're doing, so that when they're out in the game, you can just make better decisions when you understand, what it is you're doing. How do you assess players? And I'm really, really interested to know this. And so I'm going to give you two kind of like sub questions. Do you have a collection of drills, go-to drills that you use to measure skill? Or are you so instinctive that you can just, after just a little bit of time with the player, you can kind of figure out what they can and can't do. So I understand you do a lot of stuff beforehand in terms of developing an approach. But then I'm asking the question, how do you measure or assess skill when you don't have the time to now read, research, and look at the player and talk to the coach? How do you assess skills and ability?
I think it's a little different for every position.
Yeah.
So there's not 10 drills that I do that here's the 10 and let's go from there.
Yeah.
So I think it's a little different for every position and even for every player.
Mm-hmm.
I think if I expect our 5-man to be able to do the exact same stuff as our 4-man and say he's not as good just because he's not as smooth in a dribble handoff situation.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if that's really fair. So I think it kind of has to do with the overall picture of it and what we as coaches and we as a trainer expect them to get to. But definitely, as far as I think shooting is a huge part of it, so it would definitely involve some type of a couple shooting drills.
Okay.
Whether that's on the move, catch and shoot, simple pick and pop,
mm-hmm.
pick and roll, pull up, something like that. So would definitely involve some type of shooting because I think that's just such a big aspect of today's game.
Now, I'm a big 5-minute guy. I like to do every drill for 5 minutes. And if we're doing something that's really, really specific to the right side, then I'm going to spend 5 minutes on the right side, 5 minutes on the left. But if I think that the player kind of has evolved and understands the concept and is pretty good left and right, then I may spend 5 minutes going left and right. How much time do you spend on a skill? So even if I'm evaluating a kid, I'm going to spend 5 minutes evaluating that kid on that particular skill. And I'll also spend 5 minutes on that skill as I'm developing, because again, it gives me an opportunity to watch them. They can get tired and then they can see themselves fight through the fatigue and then still work on executing. So that 5 minutes, it does a lot for me from a training standpoint. But when you're evaluating a guy, how long, how many reps, how long does it take you to kind of gauge what this guy can and cannot do? Or is it just simply eye test and gut once you've seen enough, you've seen enough, whether that's 10 reps or whether that's 10 minutes of doing the same thing? How long does it take you to assess ability?
It is a lot of eye and just gut, just from being around, a lot of very good players. It is a lot of that. And, I really like the 5-minute stuff.
Mm-hmm.
I probably would just do like 10 reps.
Yeah.
And try to throw a bunch of different stuff at them. Whether that's moves, different post moves, different perimeter moves,
mm-hmm.
Catching in different spots, seeing their footwork, stuff like that. I'd probably just kind of try to throw a bunch of different stuff at them and see what they struggled with, see what they were good at, and kind of go from there.
What are you teaching the most right now? And I know you got guards, you got wings, and you got bigs, and so everybody's got different things. But what are you? Let's just talk about the guards, because I want to. My last question is about the bigs, and we got about 5 minutes left, and so we'll see if we even get to that one. But what is like the thing? And I know for me personally, when my thing now is, and it's been this way for some time now, I've been teaching players how to go through the defender and not around. And it's like no matter who I'm teaching, I find myself teaching that right now. It's kind of like my favorite song. So what skill are you teaching that just keeps just popping up?
Man, probably the most, I put a lot on shooting, and it probably comes, a lot from the guys that I've worked for, Nate Oates, Fred Hoiberg, Steve Prohm, even our current head coach here at Indian Hills, Hank Plona. They always put a lot of weight into, being able to make shots.
Yeah.
And specifically being able to make catch and shoot threes.
Yeah.
So the skill that I've really, really kind of been playing around with and working with has just been a simple shot fake. Staying low, taking the ball to about the chin.
Yeah.
And really using your eyes, your head, and your shoulders to sell the fake instead of having to put the ball, all the way into your shooting motion.
Interesting.
I saw Chris Mack at Xavier. I watched the workout this past summer, and that's how they teached it, or taught it. That's how they taught it.
Yeah. As you said it, I was like, Nate, I know you know better. Well, go ahead.
No, so that's how they taught it there, and I really like that, just because it's simple, it's compact, and I think it can be very efficient. Especially for us, we have a lot of high-level shooters, so their ability to just raise the defender a little bit and with minimal ball movement, it is huge.
Let me ask you this question, and this is when I would love to next time you come in town, maybe do like a Facebook Live, something or other, or find a way to capture it. But I would love to. What do you guys teach about footwork? Because when we worked out, my whole thing was we don't do false steps, so you never go back to move forward. But I know that's not everybody. Some people they are concerned with footwork, but some people are just what can you do with your right foot? I taught you want to be able to use your left and your right foot, and you want to make sure that every time you advance the ball, you want your foot going forward. Your foot should never be going back. How much do you talk about that footwork? And I ask you this question because I've seen some situations in the pro game where if you get too loose with your footwork in the pro game and you're in the corner, you're out of bounds because you don't have a lot of room to work with. But obviously with college, there's a ton of room over there, relatively speaking. So how much do you focus, or how much do you focus in on, or what do you focus in on specifically when it comes to footwork after the shot fake?
I'm big with same with you. No false steps going forward. And my biggest thing, and the reason why I'm big on that, is if the defender doesn't react, I want them ready to shoot.
Okay.
So if on your shot fake, if you're a righty, if your right foot goes back a little bit,
yeah,
and they don't go for it, then you have to load back up to shoot.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm big with, just like you are with that no false step.
Yeah.
And then being able to shoot if the defender doesn't react to it.
Okay.
As far as shot preparation, I love stepping in, getting your off foot planted, and then just having a good step in.
Okay.
Just balance wise, I like that. But at the same time, whatever's more comfortable for a kid.
Sure.
I've worked with many kids where I've tried to teach them, kind of a 1-2 step into it.
Yeah.
And it's just not them.
Yeah.
And then that's not what we're doing. So I want the guys to be comfortable and, see different options, but then at the end of the day, do what is the most efficient for them and the most comfortable for them.
Shoot, you said something, and I had another question I want to ask you. Gosh, man, because I wish I could remember what you said. Should have wrote it down, man. It was a good question. We were talking about the footwork. We were talking about stepping to the shot. Oh, you talked about the pump fake and the footwork, and then if they don't go for that, being ready to shoot. So do you work on like off rhythm shots where the guy closes out and the guy goes for a shot fake and the guy closes out, but the guy realizes the offensive player realizes that, wait a minute, your hands are down, or so you've closed out and you've taken away like the initial just catch and shoot action, but you realize then that the defender isn't putting up as much pressure as they need to. So then that guy kind of goes into almost like a I don't know, a shot fake a little bit and then a shot. So do you work on those off rhythm shots of when you realize like, oh wait, you shot fake, oh they're not guarding you, not just going to the shot. Do you work on like off rhythm shots?
Yes, only for, in my mind, the elite shooters.
Oh, okay.
I probably wouldn't have every player on our team doing that because I think, I don't want to set them up for failure.
Sure.
If one of our just average shooters did that in a game,
yeah,
they might be coming over and sitting right next to me.
And you'll be responsible.
And I'll be responsible. And they'll look at me and be like, we just worked on that. so maybe that's with, a guy that's really trying to focus on his shooting. Maybe that's something that we do get to in the summertime.
Okay.
If his big thing is improving as a shooter, maybe that's kind of, at the end of that, once he really has improved his shot, that's kind of something we worked on. But, guys at Iowa State like Naz, Bichu Long, Matt Thomas, those were two definite guys that we did work on, kind of that short shot fake and then going right into it.
That's what it is.
And a lot of it, too, was not only guys not reacting to it, but guys flying by him.
Yeah.
So it's the same idea either way. They fly by, short shot fake, and then just rise up into it. Same exact thing with kind of a short closeout, short shot fake right to the jump shot.
So I'm gonna save my last question. And just kind of I'm gonna just keep a notebook full of our conversations and just keep adding on to it. And I got a check mark for where we're gonna finish up, and then we'll start with our next one. But I will ask you this question. So what is next for Indian Hills? You guys are done with the regular season. So what's the next after you 30-0? So now what's next for you guys in terms of tournaments and all the next stage of play?
So we play tonight in our regional semifinal.
Okay.
So we'll play tonight. If we win tonight, we'll play in our regional final on Saturday.
Okay.
And if we win that, we'll play in our district final next Thursday.
And then who are you playing tonight?
Northeast Nebraska. They're in our conference. They're the 4-5 game in our region.
Okay.
And they actually were the 5 seed and kind of upset the 4 seed at their place Monday night. And then after those 3 games, then we'll go into Hutch, which is the junior college national championship.
And what threats does tonight's contest pose for your group?
They have 2 really good bigs. They're 4 and they're 5. One's already committed to Arkansas Little Rock. The other one's a freshman, but he's definitely a Division I prospect. He's a face-up floor man. Okay. And just guarding those 2 off the bounce, they're really good. On the perimeter, driving it. They also have 2 guards that have been playing a lot better. One guard had 38 a couple games ago.
Wow.
Shooting it, and then there's another guard that averages about 8 or 9 points a game. That in the last 5 games he's been averaging about 20.
Wow.
But we've done good with them. Sticking to our defense and making teams shoot over us.
Yeah.
So that's really helped us. Our length kind of gives them some problems. So hopefully all goes well tonight.
Well, man, good luck tonight. Thanks, Nate, once again. And I promise, man, we'll do this more consistent, man, because you got just a lot of cool terminology, man. I know you got some cool stories, and we talked about last time talking about the psychological, the psyche of high motor people, and you and I know that there's a necessity to engage that dark side. And how does that dark side come out in workouts? How does that dark side come out in games? How does that dark side come out in in preparation for the next level, whether that next level is high school, whether that next level is the NBA, or whether it's overseas, or there's G League, or whether it's the next level is I got to get some money. I got to get some money from this game. So maybe that might be our next topic. But hey, good talking to you, man. Good luck tonight, and I'll be rapping with you soon, bro.
Appreciate it. Talk soon.
All right, take care, Nate. Peace. Well, that was Nate Schmidt, my good friend, my little bro. Lot of really good just concepts and ideas, and I think if you are a trainer, that's kind of a manifesto to how to train. I didn't have that manifesto. My manifesto was DVDs and books, and I mean, that's it. DVDs and books and watching the game and looking for trends in the game and looking for, okay, these players do this, or all the players are starting to do this, and then coming up with some sort of curriculum that included these concepts. And I mean, I contradicted myself a lot. I still do, because what I think is important today might be unimportant tomorrow. So my curriculum and my philosophies are alive. They're living. And I think that's good if you are a trainer to stop at a point and never ever. Sorry, that's just a sneeze. But to learn something and then stop at that point and never ever move beyond that point, or never try to evolve that idea, I think can hurt you as a trainer. Now there's some things that are not negotiable. My thing that's not negotiable is I don't teach my guys to go around players. We go through them, but there's a technique, there's a philosophy, there's 3 points of contact, there's a method to it. And as I look at LeBron, as I look at Russell Westbrook, as I look at James Harden, as I look at Kyrie Irving, I see the same thing. They go after the person's foot. They get their outside foot as close to the other person's outside foot. They attack with they pin down so that the defender can't reach in, and then they attack them with their shoulder, and they open up the gate so that person has no choice but to let them go to the basket. And then the change of direction happens when the person jumps to the other side. Now the crossover becomes automatic. And all depending on where you're at on the floor, it might not be a crossover, it might be just a Euro step or a side step. But nonetheless, that for me is non-negotiable. But there are some shooting concepts, there are some post concepts, there are some other concepts that I'm willing to bend on, because right now it looks really effective, but maybe tomorrow it doesn't. But I think learning from somebody like Nate, and asking the coach, looking on film, watching that person play, talking to the player, talking to different scouts, talking to different coaches, talking to the higher level coach. What are they looking for? Gives you very good insight on how to create a brand and a style that will help you to impact the kid and impact the trainer. So with that being said, I want to thank my main man, Nate. Again, I love that dude, man. I love him, man. His mind, his spirit, his humility, and his sneaky killer side. He's a sneaky killer. It's very unassuming, but I love that dude, and just happy that I have him as a resource to, as I say these days, he's bigger than me. So to have him as a resource and bounce ideas off of him is awesome. So with that being said, more concepts, more interviews to come. So with that being said, greatness lives on the edge of death. I am not afraid to die. I will fight for my dreams. I will celebrate my dreams, and I will die for my dreams. Thoughts are things, and everything starts off as a thought first and springs from a place of mindfulness and clarity. Last time, I got a bunch of listens because of Nate. I'm pretty sure the same thing's going to happen. Y'all take care. Mark Fox, done.